Hello team and welcome to the next lesson. Today we're going to be speaking at a couple of strategies that you can focus on how to create a calorie deficit. We spoke a little bit about calories, spoke a little bit about fat loss, and I wanted to give you some practical tips, some things that you can actually action on and implement rather than just simply thinking eat less. So first and foremost, the most important thing that we can always look at is adherence. Above all, it's your behavior, it's your lifestyle, it's having the opportunity to stick to a plan. We need to understand that the biggest deficit isn't always the best deficit. The best deficit is the one that you can stick to over a period of time. For example, if you go on a crash diet and you're eating 1,000 to 1,200 calories, yes, you may lose a lot of weight for the first 5 days, maybe even for the first 2 to 3 weeks. But we all know that we end up eating it all back. It's not sustainable. We fall off track. Inevitably, again, we just end up back to square one. Craving the weight loss even more annoyed, more pissed off, more frustrated with ourselves. So we need to be thinking, what's the smallest deficit that we can make? I want you to try think about, how can I lose as much weight as possible while eating as many calories as possible over the course of the month? That's sort of the goal, is how can we get you losing weight on as much calories or as many calories as you possibly can. So we're going to speak first a little bit about energy balance. We'll touch on a little bit of macronutrients. Micronutrients, of course, have its place. Nutrient timing, not so much. And then up at the top is supplements as well. So as I said, you guys know this: energy balance, calories in, calories out, protein, carbs and fats, and of course any fluids, alcohol, etc. And then calories out, BMR, NEAT, exercise, and the thermic effect of food. We've touched on that in other videos. So of course, as always, your total daily energy expenditure is going to be basically the calories out side of the equation. We know we can influence NEAT. We know we can have a small degree over the thermic effect of food by having more protein, having more fiber, and as well your hour-long workout. That can't really get too much, but the biggest one here is sort of that 20%, those step count. That's kind of the big thing which we can focus on as far as we go energy out side of the equation. When we look at energy in, we need to look at educating yourself and think a little bit more about calories. So what is a calorie? A calorie is just simply a unit of energy. That's all it is. A calorie can raise one molecule of water by 1 degree Celsius. Some foods have higher calorie content than others. So for example, protein has 4, carbohydrates has 4, and fat actually has 9 calories per gram. So when we speak about energy balance, when we speak about weight loss and calories, the food choices that you make are going to have a big impact. Like if you have beef, for example, which is high in protein and high in fat, that's going to be a lot higher calories. When you choose a pizza, for example, again, that's high in carbs and high in fat. So we just need to be aware of the calorie content which are consumed in food. Now, what we need to look at to try to keep things, to keep our health going, my always recommendations is to focus on protein first when we look at the calories. So the recommendations we're aiming for is 1 gram to 1.8 grams per kilograms of body weight. So for example, if you weigh 100 kilos, you should be aiming for 180 grams per day. That's roughly about 728 calories. Now, we don't need to look at this too much. All I want you to be thinking about is, how can I have a protein serving per meal per day? So if that's, you have 3 meals, you're looking to get 3 servings of protein, and ideally anything between sort of 30 to 40 grams. If you're unsure on that one, simply shoot me a message, put it up in the Facebook group, search the word protein. There is a ton of recommended resources which we have in there. As far as fat goes, fat is a fantastic macronutrient because it actually helps us regulate our hormones. It lines the organs in our brain is made up of fat. The lining of all of our muscles is actually made of fat. So our ability to regulate our hormones and have different sources is really, really important. So we need to have a certain minimum amount of fat content. And the recommendations is anything between sort of 10 to 20%. That's mostly down to kind of personal preference. Of course, Some keto diets go all the way up to 50%. And again, keto is a fantastic diet if you feel that you can stick to it. However, it is not the solution. It is not superior for fat loss. So again, the recommendation here is I've just wrote for 15 grams, and that should just be anything sort of being between 10 to 20% of your total calorie content for that day. So last but not least, we can touch on is the thermic effect of food. So I've wrote some numbers here for you that just allows you to see the impact that food quality and food profiling can have. If you increase your fiber, have more fruits, have more veg, have more like potatoes, it actually takes energy to consume energy. So for example, if I was eating 1,000 calories worth of potatoes versus 1,000 calories worth of rice or Haribo, for example, is actually going to take me 30% more calories to burn the potatoes. So I'm actually only going to be consuming 700 calories because I actually used energy to try digest. And that's what we speak about the glycemic index. When food is higher in the glycemic index, it takes more energy to digest, and it's actually better for you and is satiating, and more satisfying, and it will leave you fuller for longer. Protein has the exact same effect. Again, 30%. So if you increase your protein intake, you don't even need to change your calorie content intake for that day. You will instantly lose more weight because you're using more energy to consume the energy. Carbohydrates, a little bit lower, 6 to 8%. Fat, lowest of all, of course, is 2 to 3%. And again, we know the thermic effect of food really totals up to about 10 to 15%. So we can obviously have a small influence on this by having more protein, having a higher fiber concentrated diet, trying to minimize our processed food. As we always speak about, is that 80-20 rule. So very quickly, guys, of course, we've touched on this a fair few times, but how fat loss works, your health equals your wealth. Everybody sort of knows that. In order to lose 1 pound of fat, it equals 3,500 calories. If you want to try think of it this way, it's your salary. If you get 2,000 pounds per month, you get 2,000 calories per day. You can think of this as, imagine I asked you to save up 350 pounds by the end of the month. That's kind of the goal that you're looking at. In terms of calories, you're looking, how can I save up 3,500 calories over the course of 2,000 calories a day? So that's 14,000 calories per week. And you're looking to save up 3,500 of those. So I want you to pause this video here and just simply think, what are 3 strategies that you could use to help save you anything between 300 and 500 calories per day? This can be calorie swaps, this can be 1 cal spray, this can be choosing the right sauces, this can be the mayonnaise lighter than light, this can be having more salads, this can be doing more exercise. Simply pause this video now and scribble down 3 simple strategies that you can focus on that will help you manage your calorie intake. I have a list of them here. And again, you don't need all of these. You need a couple of these that you know what, I can make those simple substitutions. I can make them work. So we're going to run through these just now. We have NEAT, food volume, calorie density, calorie per bite, meal frequency, mindfulness eating, food profiling, nutrient quality, preparation, water, sleep, alcohol, and supplements. So mindful eating. So what they've done here is they put 2 people in a room, and in one room they had 7 plasma TV screens, and there was 30 people in the room, and they had all the big sporting events, the NBA, the NFL, the golf, the football, whatever you can think of. And what they've done is they left them for 2 hours, and what they found is after the 2-hour window, the group that had the TV and the distraction, they ate 47% more calories within a 2-hour window versus the group who were just left in the same room with the same amount of food, but just told to have conversations with each other. So just by you sitting watching food, the chances are you're likely consuming, the fact that you're consuming food watching TV, the chances are you're consuming more food because you're not eating mindfully. This is where the rule, sit at the table, comes in. Next, we have NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Why is 10,000 steps so important? There is a direct cause and effect. The more steps that you do, the better heart health and cardiovascular health that you have. It is really, really important. So again, if you're doing 10,000 steps, you can burn anything from 800 to 1,200 extra calories per day. And if that means that you just need to go out a walk for an extra 30 to 45 minutes each day, rather than having to eat 400 calories less, well, that's a pretty good trade-off in my opinion. Increase water consumption. Notice this here. Studies have shown a decrease in 23% of calorie consumption per meal when supplemented with drinking 500 milliliters of water 20 minutes before a meal. Like I said, sit at the table. I start with 1 liter of water. When I'm cooking, I drink that liter, I sit at the table, I eat my food, and I do not leave the table until I finish my liter of water. I drink 1 liter with 1 meal 3 times a day. That is 3 liters, 3 meals per day, religiously. Improving your sleep. Studies have shown a decrease in 11% calorie consumption per meal when subjects got 8 hours versus those who got 5. That's 30%, nearly 33% calories per day. Super simple, team, super simple. Alcohol intake. This is another one which obviously has a direct impact on your sleep, on your hydration. But calories in alcohol actually has 7 calories per gram. So again, if you have a pint, it's about 200 calories. If you have a glass of wine, it's about 160 calories. It also has an impact on sleep as well as energy and hormone regulation. And this can actually cause you to crave even more food, which then impacts and influences your energy balance. It's not that alcohol is bad in any way, shape, or form. It just has that effect on you craving more food. So food volume, increase fruit, veg, greens. At the end of the day, like, our stomach is a balloon. It doesn't know the difference between 100 grams of chocolate and 100 grams of fruit. Of course, the 100 grams of chocolate is probably going to be like 600 calories. 100 grams of like lettuce, you're probably talking about 6. So having higher nutrients and lower calories, the way I try to think about it is calories per bite. How can I have more single ingredient foods? Because that naturally means calories per bite will naturally just kind of lead me to lower calorie intake. Increase protein. So as I said, protein is an essential macronutrient. It is essential for muscle growth, for cellular repair, for your hair, for your nails, for your muscles, but it's also the most satiating. As we said at the start, it actually takes more energy to consume and digest energy. So it can really be really successful for long-term weight loss. And they've done a study with over 600,000 applicants on MyFitnessPal. And what they actually found is those who checked their weight, they looked at the regular behaviors, they checked their weight 3 times per week on average, and they had a higher than average protein consumption. So again, that's kind of the 1 gram per kilo to 1.8 grams per kilo. If you're in that higher range, you're more likely to be successful. Now, of course, there's an upper limit. If you're eating 3 to 4 kilos of chicken each and every single day, like, eventually there's a thing that sort of tapers off and it's just not going to be that good for you. So of course, that 1 gram to 1.8 grams per kilo is kind of the ranges you want to be aiming towards. Social media usage, of course, we know that that can lead to emotional eating. It can lead to comparison. You can be less active when you're doing that. It impacts your sleep, impacts your circadian rhythms, and of course can lead to emotional eating. Journaling, very simple. Again, pen and paper is free. Can you really go wrong? Check in with yourself. Give yourself space to think. Identify your language. Sit without distraction for 10 minutes. Get clear on what you're thinking, feeling, and saying, and how that impacts your emotions, because your thinking impacts your emotions. Emotions influence your behaviors impact your results, and your results basically determine the quality of your life and effectively how much you get out of this program. So some very simple things for you guys to consider. I as far as journaling goes, I've got a few different resources. If this is something you're interested in, simply shoot me a message or post it in the Facebook group. You'll get a few ideas. But honestly, just try the hot pen. The hot pen idea is basically just don't stop writing for 10 minutes. And it can just be, today I went to do this, yesterday I done this, I felt like this, I was thinking like this. And sometimes it's very interesting to kind of see where your brain goes. And yeah, again, any other questions, simply shoot out. Home cooking versus takeouts. Now, guys, don't get me wrong, like I'm all for eating. I'm a big foodie. But with that being said, cooks, chefs, they don't really give a shit about your calorie deficit. They use oils, they use butter, they use all the sauces, and that's why it tastes so goddamn good. So if you're eating 3 to 4 times per week out, just simply bringing that down, managing that more, cook more from home, a bit better with your meal planning, a bit better with your meal prepping, can really, really go a long way. We spoke about this in terms of food volume, calories per bite, having more salads, slowly increase the number of salads, try to keep protein nice and high, just look at managing your carbs and your fats effectively. So if you look at a plate, just think I should have a quarter of my plate should be a salad, and then think a third of my plate should be a salad, then half my plate should just be a salad. These are some simple strategies that you can sort of look at, or just start thinking, cool, I'm going to have 3 salads for lunch this week, and then I'm going to have 4 salads for lunch next month. Macronutrient profiling, again, calories per bite. Think chicken and turkey versus beef and salmon, just higher in fat content, higher in calorie content. Now, again, not to say that you can't eat beef and salmon. If you are having beef, you might want to be doing it with a beef salad or a salmon salad. Again, you just need to be a lot more mindful of the calories which are involved in that. Of course, if you can make your beef burger fit into your calories for the day, and you don't really eat much for the rest of the day, then more power to you. At the end of the day, net calorie balance over the course of 24 hours. Very simple, team. Intermittent fasting is another one which has got a lot of really good reviews. I personally like to do intermittent fasting. I normally eat 4 meals a day, 8 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and 8 o'clock. When I'm doing any form of dieting, I will simply just start off by skipping breakfast, or even just having like a protein shake. So just changing the calories of that meal. That's obviously not intermittent fasting, but intermittent fasting is effectively, it's just skipping a meal. There's no other way to describe it. And the reality is, your gran was doing intermittent fasting. She would eat breakfast, she would eat lunch, she would eat dinner at 5:30, and she wouldn't eat again for 16 hours, which is effectively breakfast the next day. However, it just became sort of famous in the media because you skip breakfast, 16 hours, and glucose and all that sort of stuff. The reality is, you're just eating less over the course. But especially if you find yourself really, really busy in the morning, I think it's especially useful. I know I can quite easily kind of go the morning without eating, but it's just really important to have your first meal planned and organized and make sure that's quite dense. I myself have actually also went to 2 meals per day once. Literally would eat at like 12 o'clock and like 8 o'clock, and they would just be like massive feeds. I don't really recommend that, but again, it's useful. Last but not least, some supplements. Caffeine, fantastic appetite suppressant, can be used to give you more energy and of course improve your performance in the gym. However, it must be monitored closely. It is very quick to dehydrate you. Caffeine has a half-life of 6 hours. So again, you don't want to be going to bed with much or to any caffeine in your system, because it impacts sleep, impacts hydration, then it has a carryover for the next day. So my rule of thumb is nothing after 2 o'clock. If you can get before then, nothing after 12, even better. But yeah, really monitor and manage your caffeine intake is one very simple way to do it. So in summary, there's a handful of strategies that you can pick. Any questions, of course, team, just simply shoot me a message. Let's have a chat. But comment below, what was your biggest takeaway from here? Share it with the team, and I will see you in the next